Katie, you ready? You ready?
Yes.
Call this meeting to order. The Effingham County Planning Board meeting of February 22nd, 2023. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. We're going to begin this meeting with a word of prayer, and then we're going to follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. And we'd like to ask that everyone that can, please stand with us for both. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we just praise you for this time. We come out and discuss these important issues of Effingham. We just ask you would be with us through this meeting, that you would allow us to hear your guidance, Lord. We just ask you give us all safe travel home here tonight, and be with the ones that couldn't be with us. And I know there's a lot of loss in this room, Lord. We just lift that up. And Lord, we just ask that you would bless our troops, their families, and those that keep us safe. In Jesus' name, amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Miss Katie, our agenda. Any items we need to add or delete?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, being withdrawn by request of the applicant are items number 2, number 7, and number 8.
So that is, any additional changes?
That is it.
That is it. So items number 2, Jeremy Baker. Item number 7, Tanisha Kelly. And number 8, Tanisha Kelly. Those items have been withdrawn at the request of the applicant. I call from, sir.
Are they withdrawn or postponed?
They are withdrawn.
Okay. Withdrawn. I call for a motion to approve this agenda.
Motion to approve.
Motion for approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Smith. All those in favor of approval? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Minutes from January 18th. Are there any corrections or additions? If I hear none, I'll call for a motion to approve these minutes.
Motion to approve.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor of approval? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. All items presented tonight will be presented again at our Board of Commissioners meeting. That meeting is also a public hearing. Ladies, do we have a date on that Commissioners meeting?
That will be March 7th.
March 7th. So all items presented tonight will move forward to the County Commissioners meeting. Items that are approved as well as denied will move forward. We'd like to ask that everyone who wishes to speak tonight, when the item your concern is called, that you would come forward, that you would state your name for the record as well as sign your name for the record.
Recording in progress.
Item number 1 is under new business, a public hearing for Jake Patrick, request to rezone 7.2 acres from AR1 to AR2 to allow for a 3-lot subdivision located on Riverside Drive. This is the 3rd district. Miss Katie.
This property currently straddles Riverside Drive. The applicant is proposing to separate along Riverside Drive and then additionally separate a home site, creating a 3-lot subdivision. Since none of the new lots are going to be 5 acres, the entirety needs to be rezoned. Staff is recommending approval.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Questions or comments at this time? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? I think we did have one. Did everyone read the one letter that was sent in? That was in opposition.
Well, I guess I'll ask a question or two. I guess I probably should have asked it of staff earlier, and I apologize for my voice. It's going in and out a little bit. But so this is both sides of Riverside Drive are one parcel right now.
Correct.
Riverside Drive, a public road.
Yes.
Yes.
adjacent parcels are roughly how big?
The longer side looks like they're pretty similar to what he's looking to do by the map.
They vary, but this would be,
By the map in the book, it's different from that.
there is AR2 zoning a few parcels over. So it's not incompatible with what's existing as far as use.
Are either side as they exist, are they greater than 5 acres? Yeah, the one side's already
Yeah.
2.8.
There you go.
That's a public road that runs down the middle of them.
He's trying to just do the one lot of those two, the larger, the 7.2. He's gonna divide that into 3 lots?
No, sir, he's going to separate the two that are already geographically separated by the road. With the larger parcel, an existing home site would be separated.
So the larger one's gonna be cut in half, creating 3. The road makes 2.
He's just trying to rezone, both lots and cut the other one in half, okay. Because to rezone,
Any further discussion at this time? All right, I'll call for a motion.
Make a motion for approval with staff recommendation.
Motion for approval, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Smith. All those in favor of approval?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Item 3 is a public hearing for Justin Albright, requests a conditional use to allow for a GDOT approved borrow source pit located at 353 Forest Haven Drive, zone AR1. This is the 2nd district. Ms. Dunnigan, do you have that information?
Yes, I do. So this is, I believe, our first run through a GDOT approved borrow source as a conditional use in AR1. The proposed borrow source is 6.6 acres of a 25.21 acre parcel, set 75 feet back from Forest Haven Drive. We did approve a GDOT approved borrow source down here just a few months ago. And this property does pretty much directly access the Effingham Parkway project, which the applicant says it will be supporting. Staff is recommending approval.
Any discussion at this time?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Why isn't this considered an I-1? Why isn't this not industrial? It's a pit. It's no different than a sand mine. And that becomes, anything over an acre all of a sudden goes into industrial. And now this is 6 acres, and it's a pit. Why are we going to AR1?
This is per the new ordinance revision that does allow for mines under 10 acres to be considered as conditional use in AR1, rather than sort of, even though it reverts at the end of activity, rather than having sort of that, little red light on the zoning map indicating industrial. Over 10 acres, Teresa, it would still need to rezone to industrial.
No,
No.
we're eliminating the industrial rezoning associated with surface mines, and anything over 10 has to go through a plan development process so that we can customize conditions based on the surroundings. Does it need a berm? Maybe, maybe not. Anything under 10 acres the applicant can opt to go either PD, because that may be to their benefit, or AR1 conditional use, which is to the benefit of our map and keeping the integrity of more residential and rural areas. So the red portion at the bottom that we recently rezoned for Mr. Evans, that's actually probably not going to go ahead as a borrow source, just because GDOT in their review reduced the amount of allowable digging area due to wetlands, that Mr. Evans apparently is not interested in pursuing that. So rather than have that sit out there as an industrial dot for forever, we're going to approach him and see about getting that down zone to AR1 again. The idea was just to eliminate these spot zonings around the county and having industrial dots on the map. So for relatively small borrow sources for, Church Pond or, Effingham Parkway related GDOT projects that are all under 10 acres. We opted to just find a way with a conditional use to make it work, make it applicable for 3 years, and at the end of that time, they have to be reverted.
Does it have to come before us to revert back, or y'all just gonna?
Yeah, no, it has to go before the boards, so it'll come back through, it's more of a housekeeping measure. And the ponds of 1 acre or up to 1 acre, it's pretty much the same process as it has been, which is just planning board approval.
So
That
over
doesn't,
10,
sorry, go ahead.
over 10 is still industrial though?
No,
Yes.
we're not gonna do
So no
industrial
industrial at all.
rezonings.
That's good.
But that doesn't change,
Chairman, could I interrupt to ask, I appreciate you using your microphone. Could I, or could you ask everyone to use their
Sure,
microphone, please?
could we make sure we use our microphone, please? So that it's still gonna be required to have state mining permit, correct?
Yeah, all of the other conditions are in place. We tried to align our process with the state process, and in fact, will require a copy of the annual report that should go to EPD. We would like to get a copy of that too. So we're trying to track with the EPD regulatory process
All right,
in the future with surface mines.
all right, thank you.
Thank
Any-
you for that explanation.
Any further discussion on that?
Yeah, I just say thanks as well. I think it was always a point of confusion in the general public when you saw I-1 floating in the middle of agricultural area.
Correct.
So, it's a good change.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? There's no further discussion from the board. I'll call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A second. All's in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Item number 4 is a public hearing for the Ratchford firm as agent for Stefano's Land Holding LLC requests a conditional use to allow for a container storage facility located on Old River Road, Zone I-1. It's the first district. Miss Dunnigan or Miss Teresa?
Ms. Teresa.
Miss Teresa.
So these parcels were rezoned to industrial over the course of the last 2 years in different batches. And the property was sold, and the new owner apparently didn't realize that we have permitting requirements. And so code enforcement discovered a growing container yard and truck storage facility and shut them down. And representatives of the owner came to meet with us, and we told them about our sketch plan process and the need to come through for permitting for any structures or construction in the flood zone especially. So what we have tonight is in two parts. One is a sketch plan for their vision for the entire property, and also a conditional use which is necessary in order to operate a shipping container storage facility. You see from the photos, which Katie will go back and forth, a good deal of activity had taken place before code enforcement found this development and shut down operations. Because it's in the flood zone, it's relative, it's a pretty delicate process to begin development in the floodplain without proper permitting. It puts the county in jeopardy, actually. It puts us in jeopardy with our floodplain management program and our position with FEMA and reimbursement in the case of future disasters. So this is very serious. In any case, the sketch plan that you have before you is the result of several meetings and discussions between ourselves and the applicant's representatives, Mr. Ratchford and the engineer from Maxwell Reddick. And you have the sketch plan in your packet, and I'll admit there's a little confusion on this part of staff as to what phase 3 might be. Mr. Ratchford has referred to phase 3 in some emails, and so maybe he can explain that. But the sketch plan does indicate a phase 1 and a phase 2, and it includes container storage or chassis storage and a variety of different permutations of trucks and containers on and off the chassis. So at this time, we're recommending approval of the sketch plan in principle because it will have to go through extensive review for land clearing and site development planning. But at this stage, the sketch plan could work, but first, in order to, actually, we probably should have done it in a different order. The conditional use would need to be, well, the conditional use is first. The conditional use needs to be considered first the conditional use permit for a shipping container storage facility on this site, and then this next step, the second step would be the sketch plan, which, you know, requires the approval of the conditional use in order to go forward. And Mr. Ratchford is here, he might be able to explain any newer developments.
All right, thank you, Ms. Concanon. Yes, sir.
Well, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Thank you to all the members for your service. I came into this late. Mr. Stefanos Villasakis had bought the property and had already been out there and received a stop work order before I knew what was going on. And then he came to see me. His lawyer sent him up to see me to see what we could do to get everything straightened out. So I want to say thank you to the staff. They have been wonderful about working with us to try to resolve this. But what we're trying to do is straighten it out. The man did not realize, and he had somebody that he had a lot of respect in tell him that he didn't need to worry about any permits. And as a self-made Greek immigrant, he believed him, and he started putting down crush and run, et cetera, when he shouldn't have done it. So when he got the stop work order, he stopped, and we haven't violated the stop work order in any manner. We've just been trying to get everything straight. So this is the first hearing on this. And Ms. Teresa is right. We are asking for the use on the entire piece of property. He would like to be able to store containers on the property. He would like to be able to use it for his trucking company. And the time issue on this is he has sold the property where his trucking company was, and he had no other place to put anything. But he stopped. He rented a piece of property in Savannah for 3 months while we hopefully can get this resolved. Teresa referred to the phase 3. I don't really know how to describe it real well, but it's the cleared face that's below the tree line. So the area that he is talking about for the phase 3, and this is what we do, and we're gonna have to phase it in, is right there on this plat. I think y'all have a copy. It's a part of that 305, well, I don't remember what the tax number is on
And
it.
it's on the screen up there behind you as well.
Can y'all see which one we're talking about?
I see one or
Right.
two.
Now, this shows phase 1 here, but what, in meetings with Teresa and Tim, what we decided to do, the most expeditious thing to do was to move to a phase 3 that's right in the middle of that phase 1, right where the arrow is now, right there. And those long strips that are shown there, they're already in existence. They're just strips of concrete.
So you're moving up on the high ground where there's no, I mean, is that what you're doing? I mean,
Yeah, there is, he has put some
away.
crush and run down, but not to per the engineer, he's not put anything nearly enough to cause a problem with the, actual, floodplain. In addition to that, it's surrounded by a couple of retaining ponds and that kind of stuff. You can see them on the maps. So that's gonna pick up any kind of problems there.
So can I interrupt you real quick?
Yes,
I mean, are you asking for the entire site?
Yes, the entire site to be put for a conditional, to approve for a conditional use. But in terms of what we're gonna develop right now is only this phase 3.
Because you have to wait on the wetlands.
Well, we have a lot of stuff to do. The wetlands is one of them, yes, sir.
Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up? Ask a follow-up, and it's, 300-foot buffers are shown on the plan? That's
I
all.
believe they are, yes, sir, on the setback, on
Everything.
this piece they are.
So everything with the exception of the frontage on Old River Road, which I think is 150.
Right, but that's not included in what we're doing right now. Now, we are asking for conditional use there, but we've not submitted a sketch plan for that one. But that one, I believe, and Teresa, correct me if I'm wrong, that's a shorter buffer there because it's across the street from property, I think that's industrial now.
No, the property across the street's commercial, and I think we'll see it here. Yeah, there's a little bit, no, it's all commercial. The blue is commercial.
And what is the setback with that one, or the buffer zone with that one when it's commercial? Is it the same as
It's one,
residential?
I'm gonna check. I think it's 150.
Yeah,
I think it's 150.
and
I wasn't debating if it was right or wrong. I wanted to be clear that it is that. And
Oh,
that's
yes,
what-
sir.
And that's what we're reviewing it based off of, because there's a lot of other stuff that shows up a lot more bold on that plan than that real light gray buffer line.
Yeah.
And hearing,
Yeah, it was
hearing that
something
somebody
probably
didn't
make-
understand what they were, didn't understand the process, I just wanted to make sure he understands the process, that 300-foot gap between the property line and that buffer is a buffer.
Yeah, he fully does. Now, with regard to what he's done up to this point, I don't know if these have gotten circulated, but this is just a picture of the area. But there is 300 foot between, there's a fence already back here.
Mr. Ratchford, you know, you got to speak in that microphone.
I'll try to.
She's got him on the overhead.
Oh, okay. Sorry, that's one thing I'd like to change, is I can't see anything that's up there. That part there's 300 feet from there to the start of the concrete. I went out and stepped that off. And the fence is there, it was there before the stop work order. So he's willing to do what he needs to do to bring this thing up to getting all the permits. Again, I can't thank the staff enough. We're just trying to get all our ducks in a row and move forward from there. It is a great piece of property for this kind of use because it's surrounded with natural buffers that are mature, that are already there, except between the fence, the fence and the start of the container storage. But he intends to plant it and go forward from there as things progress with this. Now, to be upfront with everybody, he's had people come in and make him an offer on this property. He's considering that contract. All this may go away if that happens, but for right now, I'm explaining what he is looking for, and I don't think any of this can transfer to the new owner anyhow. It's all just for him.
Any further discussion at this time? All right. Thank you, Mr. Ratchford. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Does anyone have anything to add? Call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
No, second.
Second, Mr. Thompson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Thank you, Mr. Ratchford.
Thank you. I'm assuming that's on both of them, and I'll sit down.
Well, we technically got.
No, sir, we got to
Got to do it.
get to. Item 5, the sketch plan. The Ratchford firm is agent for Stefano's Land Holding LLC. Request approval of a sketch plan located on Old River Road, Zone I-1. It's the first district.
Excuse me.
Ms. Dunnigan, is there anything you wish to add?
No, Teresa?
Or Ms. Treese, I'm sorry.
We've added conditions to both the conditional use and the sketch plan, and the conditional use, just, I know you've just voted on it, but that one, the first condition is to prohibit stacking of containers. Now, if the applicant wishes to get a waiver on that, he can take it up with the Board of Commissioners, but at a staff level, just because we don't have a good feel for what this is going to look like, we wanted to limit the impact of the development. But going to the sketch plan, we believe that our engineers are sort of better situated to determine whether a CLOMAR will be necessary for any development or fill in the floodplain. And given our obligations to, our participation in the community rating system, that their word will be final on that. So the sketch plan includes a condition that the conditional use would have been approved, and you all are making a recommendation in favor of that, but also that a recombination plat be submitted. And we've discussed this before, that there are several parcels here, and technically there's a 25-foot buffer required along each border, so it's in the interest of the applicant to go ahead and just recombine them all so that they can eliminate those internal buffer requirements, and that's been discussed, and I assume you're moving forward with that. But before we could, give a final approval on site development plans, that would have to be complete. But that's it. It needs
Thank you,
to meet
ma'am.
access management policy, just the usual.
Do you have anything?
We're discussed and they're agreeable. We're working on getting a plat done now. Wow.
Any discussion from the board? Anyone else wish to speak? Call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with the staff recommendations.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
No, second.
Second, Mr. Thompson. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried by all.
Thank y'all very much for your time and
Thank you,
cooperation.
Mr. Ratchford. Item 6 is a public hearing for Bryant Ligon, BRD Land and Investment GP as agent for TNT 9G LLC, requesting to rezone 288.36 acres from AR1 and I1 to R3 and R5 to allow for a single-family, multifamily residential development located on Midland Road. This is the 2nd district. Ms. Conkenon.
These two parcels are, one of them is AR1, the other was rezoned to I1 for a surface mine a few years ago. From what we've been told, the surface mine never did go ahead, so it's kind of one of these industrial parcels just sitting out there as a kind of a blot on the map. This rezoning is covering these two parcels. There's a small amount of frontage on Midland Road, which is evident in the site plan, which we'll see in just a minute. But this one. So this shows the proposal. The road the entrance will come in off Midland. There's a single entrance to. No, just leave it on the first one. No, that one. That's good. So this is a proposal. You see that there are stub outs to adjacent parcels. That is something that we require. That is something that, in some cases, developers don't necessarily want to do, but as part of our ordinance requirement, that is promoting connectivity in the event that adjacent parcels ever develop. There's no requirement that they develop. That's just there for future connectivity if that works out. So that's why those are there. We have recently, in the past year, amended the R3 multifamily ordinance to include provision for townhouses, and that is all illustrated here in the townhouse development. And then we have also created a new R5 single-family residential zoning district, which is in fact illustrated with the somewhat larger lots there. So they're a small lot, and it is a compact, condensed development, but the idea behind the ordinance change was to encourage this kind of compact development and encourage a lot of open space, usable open space. This parcel has extensive wetlands, so the open space is built in, and additional amenity-filled open space is also going to be available. So those are the basics of this. It's a two type of housing development. It could have been a planned development. They opted to go for the R3 and R5. That's their the applicant's decision. We're getting a more specific response here because our R3 and R5 ordinances have specific requirements. PD would have allowed some negotiation. So in this case, we're asking for something, and then we know what we're getting in return. In your materials, you'll see that the applicant did submit some sample facades. I mean, nobody's locked into this, but because the R5 ordinance, in giving somewhat more density, did ask developers to give the community then more attractive facades, more amenities, just a better community, better neighborhood in general. So they've submitted just some samples of the kind of facades that might be seen in this development, just to get an idea. And going forward, if this is approved and as we go towards building permits, then that's when this would all be finalized and hammered out. But I can answer any questions, and the applicant's engineer is here as well to answer questions.
Thank you, Ms. Conkenon. Any discussion at this point?
I think I'll ask a couple of questions of staff before we start, if I can. We have no ordinance issue with that many units off of one access point.
We have strongly encouraged the applicant to try to work with adjacent property owners to get better access to either Midland or any other road possible, and I believe those efforts are ongoing. It is, it's a matter of will people sell or provide easements or workarounds. So yeah, we've definitely had those conversations.
And then I guess the process, assuming it were to get zoned, because it's two different zoning districts, they'll have to create a subdivision plat that creates an R5 and an R3.
Yeah, that's correct.
So it will be exactly where the R5 is where the R5, or the R3. What we're seeing here, that is where the townhomes will have to be. There's not flexibility to move them in the
There's
future.
no flexibility. That's why planned development would have been a better option, because we could have worked with any changes. In this case, once the design has been finalized and once a plat comes to us for signing, that's it. Townhouses can't exist in R5, and single family usually wouldn't exist in R3. But potentially could.
That's all I have right now.
Is there a representative here tonight for BRD Land and Investment.
Good evening. My name is Travis Burke. I work with Coleman Company, and I'm here tonight with Mr. Ligon with BRD Land Investment as agent for the TNT 9G LLC for this request. You know, as Teresa had pointed out, we are asking for two separate zonings, one for the R3 to allow for some townhomes, and then also requesting the R5 district, which is a new zoning district that was just recently approved here in Effingham County, that allows for, you know, a smaller lot mix. The R5 district does allow for a 50-foot wide lot by 100. Our smallest lot is going to be 50 by 142. So, and only about 30% of our proposed lots are going to be the smaller 50-foot wide product. The rest of them, we're proposing the 65-foot wide product with the same 142-foot depth to make sure that we got plenty of depth for some rear yards, be able to set the houses back far enough so you can park in the driveway and not block the sidewalks and that sort of thing. I think we've gone through and met all of the zoning requirements for the zoning districts. Definitely have concerns, you know, about the single access point with this many units, and you know, continuing to try to pursue some alternatives to adjacent access to the adjacent road systems, and we'll continue to pursue that. Right now, we've kind of got placeholder stub outs in some locations for some future connectivity. Those can be easily moved around as needed to join up wherever we're successful in getting some opportunities for making connection to the adjacent road system. We did go ahead and conduct a traffic impact analysis, understanding that, you know, 550 new homes in this area was definitely going to be putting more traffic on the road, without a doubt. You know, I think right now, Midland Road, anybody who drives it, they know Midland and Highway 30 is an issue, trying to take that left turn onto Highway 30. Not too many people trying to take a right there, so, you know, our traffic study shows that even today, that operates at kind of a low level of service, and then even in the future, with just future growth, if this project never happened, you know, it just continues to get worse and continues to operate at unacceptable levels of service. And the same thing at Blue Jay and Midland Road. Today, there's, you know, very low level of service at that intersection during peak hours. So we've looked at that. We've done the analysis. Unfortunately, particularly with Highway 30 in Midland, with all the movements basically being a left turn movement going back towards 21, or folks coming and taking a right onto Midland Road, with those being the two primary movements, none of the other movements at that intersection warrant a signal. So if we tried to go to GDOT and ask for a signal there to help mitigate the additional traffic, they would not allow the signal because it doesn't warrant, because all the movements are basically in one direction. So we'll have to evaluate some other options to mitigate this traffic and improve that intersection with some type of intersection improvement. And the same thing with Blue Jay. We had them analyze that for signal analysis warrant, and it doesn't warrant a signal there. Again, the movements all tend to be in just a couple different directions, and there's not enough movements in the other directions to warrant the signal there. So again, we would need to study that, look at what would be appropriate for those two intersection improvements to mitigate the additional traffic and help the traffic that's out there today. Obviously today, they're not operating very well, so we'll definitely want to be a good neighbor, do our part to help solve that issue, and be a part of the solution there. I guess other things to kind of talk about, we are providing a pretty good amount of amenities on the site. So as Teresa had pointed out, with the new R5 zoning district, there is a minimum open space requirement. In that open space, you can't include your ponds or your wetlands, so it all has to be usable open space on the property. We're proposing a couple pocket parks. You know, this property is bisected by a large wetland system. It's approximately 120 acres of the 288 are all wetlands. So, you know, a majority of the property is wetland and will stay preserved. So outside of that, we're having pocket parks that we're putting in that'll have, playground areas, benches, grills, things of that nature. We're proposing a centralized amenity located along the road that would connect the two bisected areas that'll have a pool and clubhouse. and everything. The upper area will have a pocket park as well for that kind of separate community, so they'll have a place to go and recreate. And then we're also proposing an activity field, a place where folks can go and throw the frisbee, or kids can go play a pickup game of football or something. So we're trying to be mindful about providing amenities inside. We chose to go with the 28-foot wide street option, which provides parking on one side, and then 2 parks on each lot. And then we've got overflow parking around the pocket parks and the mail kiosk area, and then also over by the clubhouse area to help with when visitors come and need a place to park to come visit, to keep people from parking on the road and blocking the roadway for emergency services. I think that's kind of all the highlights I was really wanting to hit on. I'd be glad to answer any questions you guys may have.
Any discussion this time?
The townhomes, will they be fee simple? Will there be a property line with them, or are they gonna be all owned in common?
The goal is for all this to be under one POA. So if the ordinance requires these to be individual lot fee simple, then that's the way we'll do it. If it's available to do them on larger blocks, where one building is on one lot, they would plat it that way. But the idea is for all of this to be under one master POA association.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to definitely need a POA to maintain all the open spaces together. I was just looking at the typical townhome lot layout, and it's got property lines shown kind of down. I know you're not labeling them, but I'm just looking at it, just trying to understand how it was planned to be.
Yeah, so we were, 20-foot wide unit, 5 per building, 50-foot depth, with showing the minimum required. I think the minimum required is 100 square feet. We're showing 200 square feet of green space associated with each unit. Now, whether these end up getting platted individually or left in, a larger parcel, I think that's kind of yet to be determined.
Anything further this time?
I don't think so, not right now.
Anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Burt.
Thank you.
We may have some questions for you in a moment.
Certainly.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Yes, sir.
My name is Edward Cook. I live at 4321 Midland, which is approximately 200 yards from the proposed entrance to that piece of property. Now, I understand some of the things that have already been discussed and some of the studies that have already been done, but I'd like to go on record, this is going to have a major impact to the area, not just Midland Road, but also on Coley Hemlock, I'm sorry.
Colic, kill me.
Thank you. So my real concern is, traffic, noise. I'm also concerned about the wetlands because it's major construction. How are we going to protect the wetlands? I'm in a flood zone, and I don't know what this construction is going to do to the sensitivity of my flood zone area. Also, traffic noise, not just traffic volume, but traffic noise. Any of us who live on Midland understand that sometimes in the afternoon and late at night, particularly after school, Midland from Highway 30 to Blue Jay is somewhat like a winded out speedway for various folks with little or no mufflers on their vehicles. So road noise has increased over the last number of years that we've lived there. Also, again, traffic volume continues to grow. I do understand there are some proposals in the area to help mitigate that. I don't think, in my humble opinion, I don't think a traffic signal would be an answer to that there. It would just slow everything down on that, on both ways of that traffic. But I just want to go on record saying that, this is a major undertaking, and those of us who live in relatively close proximity to that one entrance and exit to that major piece of property have some concerns. Not only that, but also is going to be individual wells for water, or is it going to be individual septic tanks for sewage? Is it going to be a unit particularly for those? Is that going to affect my groundwater and my drinking water well? Just questions that I don't know, but I have questions of.
It will be, to do lots of this size, you have to tie on to the county water and sewer.
And I don't even know if county water and sewer is there.
County water and sewer is not immediately adjacent. There's county water and sewer on Highway 30, so the developer will have to extend lines to connect to that. The water is definitely available, and we are working to expand capacity to our wastewater treatment daily, so that by the time this comes online, we should be able to meet any needs.
Well, that was all my concerns. I just wanted to go on record saying that, yeah, you know, we who live close by do have some concerns. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Darrell Blazing. I live on 123 Myrtlewood Drive. I oppose this as well. I believe the traffic on Midland will become unacceptable at night. There's no lighting on that road. There are no edges to the road, and there are very deep pits on either side. It's a very dangerous road to drive, in my opinion. And as far as city water, I only have 5 pounds of pressure right now. So an increase of this number of homes on that would probably affect that drastically. I have a septic system, so I'm not aware of any county sewage out there, but the water I am on, and it would affect that. The road would be dangerous. The intersection of Highway 30 and Midland is extremely dangerous, and to make a left-hand turn on there, which, as the gentleman pointed out, is the way most traffic goes, is very difficult sometimes to get out of. And lighting on that intersection, thank God somebody does a driveway there with 2 big bulb lights so you can identify it in the middle of the night, but you can't find it. And then to drive down Midland in the dark is extremely dangerous. And as the gentleman pointed out, it is like a racetrack out there. And I'm well off of Midland on Myrtlewood, and I can hear the cars screaming by. So it would be a noise impact, and I would appreciate that you deny this effort.
Thank you, Mr. Blazing.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name's John Boston. I live on 556 Zipper Road. I'm also talking about the traffic here. You know, the plat I saw had 563 units, okay? That came from the county.
This proposal is 549. So, yeah,
Okay.
you're close.
All right, well, there was 140 townhomes. Are there any townhomes located in the South Effingham area? I'm not aware of any.
There are
Let's be-
some that have been approved on 30.
Okay. But, you know, we got 140 townhomes. The traffic here in the mornings backs up almost to the entrance. And this entrance is also at the edge of a cypress pond. Now, we all know, we live up here, what a cypress pond is, okay? This is a little path through there, and over time, they put dirt in there, and all of a sudden, it became a decent road before we had a impact survey, I'm sure. But there's more development, and y'all have approved some of it. There's some on Hodgeville Road. There's a new subdivision, and also Highway 30. There's some upcoming building right where Pecan Lane comes into Highway 30. I believe that is the Ziegler's property, if I'm not mistaken. And then also on Zitrar Road, they're fixing to put some. So all that impacts Midland Road, okay? Like I say, Midland backs up in the mornings. All those houses, you got, you know, what's it gonna do? Schools. They're building wings on both the schools over there. I mean, this is a huge development. If you got a little piece of property and you throw up a few houses in there, that's one thing, but this right here, and then, like I say, the wetlands is all around, you know, I just don't, I don't see how it's gonna work, especially with the traffic. I mean, roughly say two cars per house, 1,100 cars. I mean, the people that live in the first subdivision there, Hunter's Mill, they can't get out in the morning because Midland Road is backed up. Okay, they sit in their driveway, school bus, they sitting out there waiting for the kids, got the kids out there. People have to stop and let them out, you know, as a courtesy because the traffic backs up. But this right here is not what Effingham County needs. This is not what Effingham County started out as. And this is what it's turning into, you know. Everybody wants to, they got a piece of property there and they wanna build a subdivision on it, make them a little cash, and they don't care what the heck happens to the rest of the county. This has a terrible impact on the county and, you know, the roads, I don't know, y'all probably all, I know y'all aren't really interested in this, but, most of y'all probably don't commute to Effingham County, which probably to Chatham County, probably 70%, this is just my guess, 60, 70% of the people who live in Effingham County have to commute out of the county to make a living, okay? It took me an hour to get home today from Garden City. That's a 20-minute drive on Saturday morning, Sunday morning, okay? And you're gonna put 1,100 more cars on the road right there. But, okay, thank y'all for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Boston.
I think you understand I want to deny it.
Yes, yes, sir.
I'm Randy Neese. I live on 195 Zipper Road. One of the things that there have been a lot of things that have been discussed that I've been concerned about. One of the things that I'm concerned about too is Effingham County geared up and able to handle the school system? I mean, a lot of us that are retired, you know, and up in age, we're paying school taxes that are just choking us. And now we're talking about adding 500 more units in that area. The impact on the school system there is going to be ridiculous. And not only that, but just like they said, the traffic. These guys come in from I don't know where, and certainly not in our area. They come in, do what they're going to do, make their money, and they leave, and then we're stuck with all this junk that happens. I sure would hope that our county commissioners would think about this. You know, we see this road, Midland Road, growing and growing and growing, and the traffic is getting worse as time goes on. I haven't heard any solutions to the problem with the traffic. I've heard some discussions about how bad it is, and the DOT won't put a light up there, and they won't do this and they won't do that. I've heard discussions about how they're going to talk with other landowners. Most of us here are landowners all the way around that property. And I don't know that any that I've talked to are willing to give land or sell land for an inlet there. One entrance in, this is just beyond ridiculous. So I would really appreciate, as well as most everybody that's here, for the county commissioners to think about this and to think about the impact that this is going to have on our area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neese.
Hi, my name is Amanda Sanders, and I live at 115 Zipper Paddock. I have a lot of the same concerns that everybody else has voiced. Some of the things that I'm concerned about are the keeping with other properties that are around the area. Most of the properties that are in that area are larger lots. I know the subdivision that I'm at, Zipper Place, it was first proposed to be a 100-lot subdivision, and we knew that our road could not handle that. The area was not fit for that, and it wasn't in keeping with what Effingham County has built around us. These lots that they're proposing about being 55 feet or so, this room is about 45 feet wide. My home is 70 feet wide. You couldn't fit my home on one of their lots. We've seen with some of the other subdivisions like Park West, South Bend, just to name a couple, that the street parking. They say one side street parking, we know that doesn't happen. You have to zigzag in and out of streets to get to anyone's home, which is what this is gonna turn into. This is gonna turn into a parking lot in the subdivision and a parking lot on Midland Road trying to get out and go to work every day. I'm blessed because I go the opposite direction. I work for the school system. But I'm telling you now, adding 500 homes is gonna have a tremendous impact to an already crowded South Effingham school system. Marlowe is full. South Effingham Elementary is full. South Effingham Middle is full. South Effingham High is having to be added onto because they are full. I'm out at Sandhill. We are full. We just added 2 new wings. We do not have a plan in place for another school on this end of the county. So why are we continuing to allow these larger lots to be built into all these mini cities that we don't have the infrastructure to support? They proposed putting recreation areas inside the subdivision. That's wonderful. But what about the rest of us? We have nothing on the south end of the county. Nothing. Sand Hill Ballpark is a shame, and it's sad. That's the only place we have to go. You can't even drive there because the potholes are so bad. And nobody is listening to when I send emails and phone calls about getting something fixed. I'm out there 3 times a week with my kids playing ball. But we're gonna put something nice and pretty for this big subdivision while we're not supporting the rest of us. That's pretty much everything I had. Everything else was just mimicking what everybody else is concerned about, the impact on the area, and those of us who, I'm sorry, but we paid a pretty penny to live on a nice piece of land with a nice house, to have it turn into what we just moved away from. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sanders.
Wish I had me a piece of paper. I'm Justin Zipper. I own the 260 acres to the, I guess you would say the northwest, that whole, about a 3,600-foot buffer. And we kind of know what this is going to bring to me. I got probably 100 different entrants from that top into it. I'm not here to tell a man what to do with his property or not to do with the property, but a common courtesy. If we are going to make this thing happen, what I ask, vegetation berm, fence down my property line to stop crime before it happens. Because we know everything I got is easily taken. I didn't get the other picture where they showed a recreation area, the retention pond. Every retention pond has an overflow. Where would them overflows be? On the top right and the one that looks like in the middle. And all the brown. That's right, because I don't, where's the other picture? My whole road for years, I used to lease this, for my whole road, we shared with that timber company. And I disagree with it, but if we gonna do it, can we get the vegetation berm, farm fence, something all the way down to keep the, let's just say the crime that's gonna be coming? Get it approved? I mean, am I asking too much for that?
I mean, I don't think so, but obviously it'll be up to the board and the applicant. So.
I think that'd be pretty good. I mean, I'm sure these guys don't live around all this, you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
I got kids back there, grandkids. We don't wanna have to be dealing with everybody else, 550 other people coming back there playing on it, right? Everybody else did a better job than me, but we need that.
You did good. Thank you, Mr. Zipper.
My name is Thomas Crutchfield. I live at 2769 Noel C. Conway. If you take a look at your drawing, go back to the map where Colic, Helmy, and Midland, you know that curve on 30 right there? That's me. And I can tell you right now, as it stands today, it takes me anywhere between 5-10 minutes to get out my driveway. And you add another 500 houses back there, and it's gonna be crazy. The problem is that left-hand turn is just part of the problem. The other part of the problem is here at Colic Helmy, and then further down at Swamp Fox, which isn't even in Effingham County. That's in Chatham County. And the problems that generate at the Swamp Fox can be felt all the way back past Midland when it happens in the morning. Yes. And I'm a 20-year investigator. I hate to see 500 more houses come in right behind me, especially with it having townhomes and all mixed in with it. Y'all already have approved the 190 acres, which is right here at Pecan and Colic Helmy that little area right there. And the only thing that's dividing that from Highway 30 is a little bit of wetlands. That's why that church hasn't sold. So I would appreciate a no vote on that one.
Thank you, Mr. Crutchfield.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Liz Buss, and I live in Hunter's Mill. I am one of those people that's trying to make that left-hand turn out of the neighborhood, and I'm making a left on Highway 30. I agree with what everybody said. I am concerned about the traffic. I am concerned about the school system. And my property backs up. I have 6 acres, and it backs up right to that front section where you first will turn into the neighborhood. And the majority of that 5 acres of it is designated wetlands. I'm very concerned about the impact that this is going to have on the wetlands. I already am in a flood zone. I was not in a flood zone when I moved here 25 years ago. And I'm concerned with what that's going to do to my lot, what it's going to do to our neighborhood. The last huge storm that we had, I could barely get into the neighborhood and get through it. So I'm very concerned about if the flooding is going to become worse. And, I mean, I don't really have anything that I could say to you additionally other than what everybody else has said, and I do agree with them. I think that's a huge undertaking, particularly if it's one way in and one way out. And, you know, I certainly hope that you'll consider, you know, the feelings of myself and all of the people in here, and we would certainly ask for a no on this.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone with any additional information?
Sorry, I'm a little slow. Hi, my name's Cindy Zipper Sechinger. I live on Midland Road, 3925 Midland Road. This is all in back of me. All this is gonna be in my backyard. My father gave me this land. He's not here no more. I wasn't gonna speak, but I'm gonna speak on behalf of him. I can't believe that someone is really trying to do this to me. To these people, not me, all of us. It is right down, I have a road that goes right there to the back, and I know there's gonna be people using it from this place here. This can't be. Our schools are already ridiculous. Ridiculous. There's no room. There's no room. And my front yard is like a racetrack. The accidents I see out there is awful. Y'all have got to say no to this. Honest to God, this has got to stop, all this building. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sechinger. Yes, sir.
My name is John Bullock. I live at 3252 Midland. I'm a recent new resident in Effingham County, and what brought us to Effingham County was the community, the lack of crime. And in my experience, I've lived in several places, and my experience with townhomes is over time, they become rentals, and the residents are transients. They have no ownership in the area, and the crime goes up, and the condition of the area goes down. And it does not bode well for the community. So I agree 100% with the traffic issues. I mean, it's, like I said, it's like a racetrack, especially in the afternoon, going up and down Midland Road. But I just want to make sure you understand, as we're planning, we need to plan that we sustain our community for the future. And to me, that's minimizing crime and keeping the standards that is what made this community what it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bullock. Is there, yes, sir.
He's bigger than me, I'm gonna let him go.
I'm Darrell Mobley. I'm 1185 Midland Road. I'm a new resident to the county also, and my wife and I both moved up here because of the environment and wanting to move away from the crime and some of the stuff that some of my other neighbors here had spoke of. I just want to add one thing to what they've said. since we've been here, we've had at least 3-4 occasions where people have come up to us because they've had a flat out on Midland, and that road has such an incline that they cannot, safely change a tire or repair something to their car. So they pull into the driveway wanting to use our property or whatever to change the tire and get some things done. So I just wonder, with 500 more cars on the road, what are we gonna do for safety for individuals who have issues out on that road with such a high incline? It's just one of those things that we need to think about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mobley. Yes, sir.
Hey, I'm George Cousins. Thanks for letting me be here today. I live right here in a little subdivision called Statler's Point. And when I look at this, I say, gee, we're trying to become Chatham County. We have a good area to live in, and I appreciate Effingham County. When we make decisions like this, it's real good for the developer. I don't think it's real good for Effingham County. I'm retired. I come here. I love it, and I love our school systems. We have some of the best school systems in the state. I got a little house in Settlers Point, property tax $2,800 a year, one of which each one of those units will contribute in property school tax to our school system, with probably 2 kids per unit. We know who's going to pay for the school tax for those kids, and it's going to go on the current homeowners like me and you. And think about what that's going to do to our school system and our school tax. We won't be paying $2,400 or $2,600 on our houses. We're going to pay for it, and we know we want to keep our school systems top of the class, and they're not going to pay for it.
Thank you, Mr. Cousins.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'd like to personally thank every one of you up there for this ear-chewing session. I'm surprised that any of you are still here after the last couple of months. Same thing, my name is Sandy Edwards. I've lived here for a long time. Once again, I'll state that my wife and I moved here from Gwinnett County. We've seen exactly what this has had. We've seen this before. And I'd like to invite everybody in this room to be here on the 7th for the clown show that's coming. And once again, I'd like to say thank you to every one of you.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Is there any additional information? Yes, sir.
My name's Jared Tipton. I own a lot at 120 Zipper Paddock. I guess I just wanted to bring up, and I'm not sure about all of the zoning in the area, but I know at the Hunter Mill subdivision, I looked up a couple of lots, and they ranged in between the ½ acre and 3/4 acre size. And these lots, I guess the size they were saying is, to translate that into acres, is 1/6 of an acre, just to give you an idea. And obviously the townhomes are even smaller. If we ended up getting more exits onto Midland for the subdivision, still doesn't help the traffic on Midland. And there's not really another good road to go out on based on all the property and everything. Yeah, traffic gets backed up so bad on Midland that my wife has before had to take detours down Nice to get on to 30 earlier because it backs up too much on Midland. So basically you're in a detouring around the whole area just to get in line quicker on to 30. I guess 2 other things. I don't know if it's a possibility that y'all add this requirement or if it's any other requirement that I don't know if there can be a requirement that there can't be rentals in there, that it's built into the HOA guidelines. I don't know if that's anything that y'all can do.
There is a stipulation in the ordinance that allows for less than 20% rental, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, the R5 ordinance limits rental to no more than 20
% before build out, before completion.
per year,
Yeah.
exactly. So it couldn't be built 100% rental. Now, the townhomes, R3 is multifamily. We have no expectation of between home ownership or renter that's there's no restriction there at all. Multifamily is often rental. I mean, single-family residential subdivisions are often rental too,
Right.
over time, but.
Yep. Yeah, no, they were saying 140 of those are the townhomes, it sounds like. Rentals, yeah. Let's see. I think that's all I had, just mainly, I guess in another area I can say is Zipper Road. Almost all the houses down that road are on 5 acres. At the end of that, Zipper Paddock, it's 3 acres. You know, Hunter's Mill is between a ½ acre and 3 acres, so, you know, townhomes in 1/6 of an acre just doesn't seem to fit the whole area. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Dennis Heinen, I live at 968 Colic-Helmy. It backs up to my property. This supposedly a community that they're going to try and develop in there. I don't have a problem with single-family homes if they're on a substantial lot that, you know, will raise taxes to maybe help reduce some of them on my property in my house. But this is, you know, it seems like I tried to go on y'all's website and find out what these zones mean, and apparently they've just been introduced to Effingham County, and I don't think this is what Effingham County needs, is this compaction of houses in a small space. You know, in my opinion, all it's gonna do is reduce values of houses around there and property around there. You know, I just don't see where anywhere in the county. And when I moved up here 25 years ago, this isn't what Effingham County needed or wanted at that time, and I don't see where it needs it now either. Not to mention the traffic that everybody's mentioned is only going to get worse, and Effingham has a bad habit of not dealing with traffic situations, and I can't see them doing anything in the next 10 years to, you know, alleviate some of that traffic up there right now. So it's only going to get worse.
Thank you, Mr. Heinen.
Kind of a redneck question. What's this gonna affect me dumping AR mags on my property with a subdivision coming right next door to that? I mean, they gonna be able to tell me I can't shoot guns on my own property when it comes to that?
It is
that's-
I mean, there's a current law, or, you know, it's in the ordinance. I mean, I can't remember what the distance is
Yeah,
from a
it's
home.
300
300 yards?
Yeah.
300 yards.
That's a damn I mean, that's a long ways. I mean, 'cause you got these houses right here that is pretty much where I dump mags at. I mean, are they gonna be able to tell me I can't do that?
Well, I mean, I get what you're saying, but the landowner could currently go in there and build a home.
I know.
And so, you know, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but you basically got to be 300 yards off the property line.
300 yards, that is, I can tell, I wish you pull up, that is almost 3/4 across my property. That is, I wish I had something to point it out, because I have an actual 500 yard lane right there, which would put it. That's telling me I couldn't even do it on that side.
So, I mean, you know.
I mean, we can write it in that says Justin can't dump
Well,
his
can you
AR mag or something.
Can you
I mean,
come
right?
back? Can you come to that microphone, please?
I mean, can it?
I mean, it's you know, and I've always questioned that the way that was written, and it's always been from a home, but it always should have been from adjacent property owners, which wouldn't change.
Yeah, all my other property owners, they really don't care, because it
But
sounds like
you see my
war.
point. I mean, whether there's a subdivision there or not, it's the way the rule's written. But I mean, I don't make the rules.
And but the berm and all that could be done, fence, all, I mean, is that normal questions when places like this are being built?
The majority of these, and I'm not sure if it's even in the regs, a lot of these do put up privacy fences in their backyard.
We can't require that, the county attorney?
It can be a requirement made, a request that privacy fences are put down properly.
And maintain, I guess?
Yeah, and maintain. Thank you, Mr. Zipper.
Good evening. I'm Dale Harrington. I own the northeast corner, you might say, a little over 10 acres. Fellow that was just up here, he owns 10 acres next door to me. So we got 20 acres on that northeast corner. And y'all know about the traffic. I'm not going to say traffic. You know, We can't go nowhere when people's going to school up on Colic Helmy. We sit on our driveway waiting to get out. If we make it out to get down to 30, we sit there. Y'all let dump trucks run up and down 30 hauling dirt. I mean, that's one problem, but 500 more cars in there is gonna be a big problem. And somebody's already touched on these multifamily houses. They're gonna bring trouble. They're gonna bring crime. And my property butts right up to where these townhomes is gonna be. I got a little branch right there. All right, when it rains like it usually does over there, where's that water gonna go? I don't got wetlands right now, and I don't want wetlands. But that water, when they build asphalt roads, driveways, it's gonna run off. It's not gonna run to their retention pond. Their retention pond's uphill. Water ain't going uphill. It's gonna come to see me. Between that and the crime, I think you need to say no. And you need to say no quick. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harrington.
Good evening. My name's Mike Davis. I live at 293 Zipper Road. I agree with all these problems these other people have said. There's been a couple of things that haven't been said. So I'm gonna bring those out. In this subdivision, is Effingham County prepared with EMS, fire trucks, and police to get in that subdivision that they're gonna build and park on the road? They already park on one side of the road, and the person who's gonna park on this side of the road, like I was saying earlier, that fire truck will be zigzagging out those cars to get down that lane, the ambulance, the police cars. That's a big issue. We have that now, just on Zipper Road, not Zipper Road, on Midland Road now, trying to get them down that road, up and down the road now. So you got a little subdivision that huge subdivision with 1,000 cars in there, and half of them parked on the road. How are they getting down there? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Is there anyone that wishes to bring any additional information to this board?
Good evening. My name's Elliot French. I own 5.5 acres next to Mr. Zipper, and bought that land a while back. Plan to build a house on it, but maybe not now. How many more subdivisions are y'all gonna allow in here? They putting one right across behind the subdivision I'm in Coventry now, and there's 2 more already planned up by the school. How much traffic can we stand there? I have to leave the house in the morning before 6. If I'm 5 minutes late, I'm 15 minutes late getting to work. It's not good. Ambulances, fire trucks, we don't have the stuff to support it, guys. Y'all really need to sit down and think about this one. If you want to check out our stories, meet me at Coventry in the morning at 6 o'clock. I'll show you what you got to work with.
Thank you, Mr. French.
Thank you.
Is there any additional information? All right. Yes, sir. I think we've covered it all, but yes, sir.
I was just saying, I'm not necessarily against a subdivision being built there, but, you know, even if it was on the AR2, then, 3 acre lots, okay, maybe it's 100 houses in there or something that would be less than 50. So I'm not opposed to some other proposal, just this seems very dense.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right, this time.
I'm Alan Moore on Zipper Road. Why can't y'all build the roads to handle the traffic before you give them okays to build? The roads in Effingham County are not designed for the traffic it's got on them now, all the way in Effingham. And that is the problem with y'all. Y'all not planning it right. Build the roads first. It'll take you 10 years to get that done first. So why don't you try doing that? I've been there for 26 years. And I heard someone say that about school tax. I paid it for 26 years, and I don't have a young'un in the schools. I never have.
Could I get you to state your name again, please, sir?
Alan Moore
Alan Moore.
on Zipper Road, 240.
All right, sir. Thank you, and thank you for your service. So just one quick clarification, and this is the Planning and Zoning Board, which, I mean, I understand it does say planning, but this is, we're all appointed by our elected officials. This board takes into considerations the ordinances that are approved by our elected officials and decides, does this plan meet those rules? And then we make a recommendation to the county commissioners based on that. The final say will come from the county commissioners. Any roads, any traffic studies, any of those things that we've heard a lot about tonight, I don't disagree with, but those are all things that have to be conducted by our elected officials, which we are not. I apologize to say, but we're not.
I hate to say it, but there's probably some people getting padded pockets.
Well, I can't speak to that, but, you know, I can only do what this job allows this board to do, which is vet this application as to the merits of it by what the rules put in place in front of us are. So,
Well, I agree with what everyone else has been saying.
okay, thank you, Mr. Moore. Is there any new additional information? Is any discussion, is any questions? Anyone have any questions on? All right, I'm gonna close public comment at this time, so open it up to the board if there's any conversation.
Are we gonna get, does the applicant have any?
Would you like, do you wish to make any rebuttals or have anything you'd like to?
So I don't disagree with anything these folks have said, and I understand their positions completely. You know, this is a high-density project, and it is going to put a lot of traffic on the road that is already taxed. You know, we'll do the best we can to help alleviate those problems. You know, there was talking about, you know, drainage and flood zone. This area is an undetermined flood zone. If this, excuse me, if this project is you know, goes forward, they'll be required to do flood studies and to establish base flood elevations out here. We'll have to go through all the technical review through the county's engineering department to make sure that all our stormwater and our flood is managed. We're trying to avoid the wetlands as much as possible. We're only impacting them where necessary just to get some connectivity roads in. We're not looking to do any impacts additional than that. So we're trying to be mindful of the wetlands and being good stewards of that. You know, as far as the traffic goes, all we can do is say that, you know, we will coordinate with Effingham County and try to come up with some resolutions and be a party to that and come up with whatever type of improvements would be necessary at those intersections that are congested today to help alleviate that. I guess that's all I have for that.
All right.
I don't know if you guys have anything you want to add.
Evening, folks. Board. So my name is Bryant Ligon. I've been working with Tommy Strickland and Ray McDonald on this property to help him monetize his land the best that he can. And so I hear your concerns. I've been in this place. It's not comfortable. It's probably more uncomfortable for me than it is for you in a lot of ways, but I do understand where your reservations are and everything that was said today. And I'm going to do my best to address some of them. I try to write them down. There's a lot of things. You know, traffic is obviously one of the major concerns, and with any subdivision, you guys are familiar with it. We have to take a look at what are the implications that a project's going to have on the roads. And it sounds like the roads have an issue as is. And so we hear that, we understand that. From my perspective, we work with consultants who are going to tell us how can we improve the roads so that this project has a better implication for those roads rather than worse. So, the traffic is one thing that I hear you. I can't help you with traffic noise. The truth is, I come from a very similar place. The place that I grew up looks very drastically different than when I was born there, when I was raised there. And there's more and more cars on the road. That happens as things begin to grow, and it becomes it's never easy to watch your hometown turn over, and I understand that. One thing that I will say with that is I think we've addressed, or we've brought up several folks have brought up the crime that would come with a subdivision like this, and I'm gonna push back on that and say, guys, people need places to live. Why do people want to live in Effingham County? The number one reason that I believe that people would want to live in Effingham County is the schools. It's one of the greatest schools around, right? Bryan County and Effingham County has some of the greatest
Mr. Ligon, could I get you to address the board, please?
Yeah, sorry.
I know you're trying to, and I appreciate that.
Sorry, I just want to make sure, I want to address some of this stuff, and I apologize if it's not the forum to do it. I do want to remind everybody that this project of this size is large, and it takes 5 to 10 years to build out. So we're not talking about overnight. I want to say, we can certainly work with any of their neighboring property owners to address any concerns that they may have, buffering, that type of thing within reason. It's not my intent to tell somebody what they can or cannot do on their property. And I'm, as a developer, I'm happy to work with somebody so that they can maintain the lifestyle that they're used to having on their properties. That's it.
So you heard the one question that I remember explicitly about the fence, the privacy fence along the property line.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, my recommendation, what I've done in the past, is I've worked with property owners to develop some sort of a landscape buffer, some sort of a buffer that's reasonable for both the developer and the neighboring property owner, so it suits everybody's needs. And like I said, within reason, I'm certainly happy to do something like that. I see no issue with that.
Is there any further questions for this gentleman?
Yeah, I just think it's not up to us to have to propose that, though. That's the minimum standards is what's been met on the plan.
Right, I agree.
You can always have greater than the minimum to help support a zoning request.
Mm-hmm. You have anything further?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you, guys.
All right. Anything further? All right, I'll close public comment discussion at the board level. I mean,
My opening question to staff was my biggest concern with it. Just a single point of access and I know our code doesn't specifically speak to it, but it is it's a real concern with a project of this size. I know there's others in the county that have it. I appreciate the fact that the ordinances now require some stub outs in the future to help solve it, but sure would be great to see at least a option. Sure would be great. Sure would be great just to have an option for at least an emergency access point somewhere. Definitely would like to hear what the rest of you guys think for sure. But I will say that townhomes and smaller lots, if you guys come back to other planning commission meetings, that's not a reason that I would vote against a project. I do believe that we need a diversity in housing, and the rental and the overloading schools. I'm in the county for a reason as well, and I appreciated the schools moved here because of them, and I wouldn't propose to not approve a project to prevent somebody else from having that.
Well, and I echo some of those sentiments. I mean, I look at the single family lots. It is something new that, R5 was changed from R6, which kind of reconfigured the lot sizes a little bit. So we were with R6 for a long time. Now we're with R5. Of course, I see a lot of single family lots when I look at the map around this. Personally, for me, and I know I can see Highway 30 on the overhead map, and I know we have approved townhomes on Highway 30 is state highway. But I'm always fearful of opening the door, because when you open the door, you know, then there's a couple miles down the road, and there's another couple miles down the road, and so at that point you can't say no. So, I mean, I am really struggling with. I mean, I'm struggling with the number. I'm struggling with the number for this piece of property. I mean, there is a lot of wetlands on it, but I'm definitely struggling with the townhomes on it.
I think we denied last month in this area just because of the road situation. I know that's not something we normally look at, but just this area is just terrible. And
that's my biggest concern, the density of the project and the infrastructure that supports it. My biggest concern is the density of the project and the infrastructure of the road system that supports it. It's just adding more confusion to the highway system. So I will vote to deny.
You know, and I will say one more thing before we call for a vote. I mean, you know, I grew up in this county and I've seen it grow, you know, over the years. And, you know, if we think it's not going to continue to grow, we're fooling ourselves. I mean, it's coming. I mean, well, I mean, so, all right. So, I mean, you know, when you look at the map, I mean, there's just so much open land, you know, and I'll say again, I mean, this is a recommendation from a zoning board. You know, the county commissioners will make the final say. So at this point, I'll call for a motion.
we'll make a motion to deny.
Motion for denial. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor of denial? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Once again, I mean, this moves forward. This moves forward to the county commissioners meeting on March 7th, with merely a recommendation from the board.
Mr. Chairman, can we ask for more chairs at the commissioners meeting, because you're gonna need them?
At this point, we'll take a very brief recess.
We only have one more. Let's have Kit Butter.
One more.
Thank you for speaking. We didn't have to. Just moved here.
Meeting back to order.
It's good to meet you. And then I'll get over to Jeff. Okay.
Item number 9 is a public hearing for David D. Smith as agent for Claude M. and Elizabeth E. Kicklighter, request to rezone .343 acres from R3 to B3 to allow for combination with adjacent parcel. Ms. Dunnigan.
All right, back in December, sketch plan for the future Parkers was approved, which included access via an easement through Moultrie Drive. The applicant is back to actually rezone and combine, and here you can see it on a prior plat listed as Track 3B. Here you see it as part of Parker's commercial entrance. Staff is recommending approval. This is going to help unify the platting and zoning for the totality of the development. And that is not a slide for us.
Could you do me a favor and point out that .3 acre plot on the map? I was looking away when you first did it.
Absolutely. So it's this little piece right here.
Right there, so that could
shading
be
yellow.
ingress, egress, that was the issue that we had in December?
Yeah.
Yes, the original plan, I believe, was to use an access easement that had been retained for this portion of the property. So now they're going to rezone and combine it with the bulk that is already.
Right.
Right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak either in favor or against this? Are you didn't say there all the time you don't want to talk?
I'm Daniel.
Okay. I'm for it.
I know you're for it.
You saw me a minute ago, but Liz Buss and I manage Leo at the Sanctuary, which is the rental community that's on that corner. And the only concerns that we have, and I may just not quite understand it yet, is that we didn't want, it would be very negative for us to have to share that entrance and exit on Moultrie Drive for access to and from Parkers. That's where our kids, well, first of all, it's where our neighbors come in and out of the neighborhood, but it's also where the kids are dropped off and picked up from school. And we're concerned about the congestion. We're concerned about the house that's on the corner there. The first house, when you come into that neighborhood, I mean, my biggest concern is that somebody's going to drive into it. And we all know that that does happen. And I'm concerned about what it'll do for the value of the property, because it's going to create a lot of noise. There's going to be headlights going into that house. And so we're not unhappy necessarily about having Parkers, but we do have a lot of concerns about Moultrie Drive and how that'll affect that front entry.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
And I think that maybe you and I can get together and we can go through what your plans are?
Sure.
Okay.
Maybe we can hear the plans.
Yeah, we will.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm Daniel Ben Israel, Real Estate Development Manager with Drayton Parker Companies, LLC. This for us is, I think, just a matter of cleaning up the zoning. We got the larger parcel rezoned, and now we're trying to consolidate this .343 acre piece that, according to our research, should have been either rezoned or combined with a larger tract at some point previously when the adjacent property was being developed. But that being said, we're here now trying to just get this all cleaned up to allow us to proceed with our development. We are in the process of having our site plan finalized. It currently does show access to Moultrie Drive, but that's a matter that's going to have to be worked out between us and the county and the sanctuary. It's our position that we do have rights to access Moultrie. The this, and maybe, I'm sorry, this gentleman can speak to that, but it's our interpretation, our position that we do have rights to access Moultrie. We do understand that there are some concerns from the residents of the sanctuary or from the managers of the sanctuary, and we're willing to talk to them about that. But we think it's going to be beneficial to that community to have direct access to our property. I think over time, we'll learn that it's hugely convenient for them. We do this in other communities where we've built what we consider neighborhood stores, and the residents enjoy having direct access to our properties. They drive their golf carts, they walk, and certainly enjoy the convenience. So we think that experience will be replicated on this property. I know the initial shock of, and all the ideas of what could happen, what could occur, the additional traffic and things, that's certainly something that one has to digest and grow accustomed to. But I think it's going to be a very workable situation in the end. But again, we'll discuss that with staff, with the residents of the sanctuary, and get those items worked out. At this point, however, this proposal is just to get this property rezoned. We still have to go through the plan review process, which will include a final determination on our access rights to Moultrie Drive.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Okay. One second.
Daniel, didn't you say at the last meeting that the DOT wouldn't allow another access other than Moultrie to that property? Wasn't there a curb cut that you couldn't get the DOT to allow you to come in off of Old Augusta Road onto your property? You had to come in Moultrie and then go across that little.
Yeah, the statement was he had to be that far away from the light. He had to get further away from the light.
Further away from the light, and my understanding is that there's going to be an R-cut installed on Old Augusta that's going to prohibit us from making a left out. And so our access on Old Augusta is going to be limited to a right in, right out only.
You're changing the zoning on that property. You own that property. So would you be able to use that to expand that opening to come into your property without coming down Moultrie? That's what I'm saying.
Right, well, we're going to be restricted to having a right in, right out only on Old Augusta.
I think what he's asking is, once you acquire that corner, do you have to use Moultrie, or can you just go out on Old Augusta? Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. So right now, we're proposing.
That would be way too close to an adjacent driveway to have another driveway.
Yeah.
I would
Way
hope
too
that would be
close
the
to an
case.
adjacent driveway. I mean,
Too close to Moultrie, that would create a much more dangerous situation to have two of them right beside each other.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I understand your question. Was your question, could we shift our driveway
No, I'm trying to
closer
help.
to
I'm
the
trying to-
driveway to Moultrie to make it,
stay off Moultrie.
yeah, to stay off Moultrie and just make it a no-brainer that you would just use ours? Yeah, I get it. But yeah, it would be, we wouldn't meet the driveway separation requirements if we were to do that. So right now, we're showing our driveway on Old Augusta, and as it is our interpretation that we do have access to Moultrie, we're showing that currently as well. But that's gonna get worked out here shortly, through the process.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mickey Kicklighter. I'm the son of my dad and mom. If you could bring back up the one with the little yellow. Let me clarify if I could. The yellow piece never was to be rezoned R3. That never belonged to the village. I don't know how it actually ever got rezoned, other than one of the original plats had that as part of what, if y'all remember, Wayne Millar and his group are the ones that bought that. Originally that was in, but before it was closed, that part was actually out. So when it went to R3, that was a mistake because they didn't even own it. They never bought that. That's part of the original piece that's left, okay? And it was actually already zoned commercial before it was changed to R3. Now what Daniel's talking about is when we sold and we kept that piece, there is a recorded easement already to come through that property, to come to Moultrie That was negotiated when the property was originally sold to Wayne and his group. Now, I understand y'all are the subsequent purchaser. But all of that was agreed to when we sold it to them, that there would be access through that piece to Moultrie. And in fact, there were some agreements actually made as to the design of Moultrie that contemplated this ultimately being a commercial corner. So it really never should have been R3 to start with, because they didn't own it when they applied for their rezoning. We didn't even know, now I'm not allowed to mention who's buying, but, because it's in our contract, it's confidential, but we didn't even know it had been rezoned till they were getting into doing their planning and found out it had been rezoned. And so obviously I'm here on behalf of Mom and Dad to support it going back to.
So this is a cleanup.
This is a cleanup.
Can I just ask a clarification? I think it's for staff, actually. Mickey, I think we're fine. This doesn't change anything about what we did last time. That easement document has to be provided for staff to be able to approve the sketch plan with the access. This zoning doesn't change that aspect of it one way or the other.
Staff does not approve access to private drives. That's not a county road, so when.
But we had asked for an easement to be provided to prove that they did have the right to have the easement across
Right.
that property.
There is an easement deed, and it's somewhere in your packet as well.
Right, so there is an easement deed, and the rezoning originally was a strip all along Old Augusta. Back in 2006, there was a B3 strip along Old Augusta.
Correct.
And it was never ratified with a plat, so it sort of hung out there, and we all knew about it, and it was shown on our zoning map.
All of that is correct.
And then in 2016 and 2018, R3 rezonings happened for 2 different amounts of acreage. And then in 2019, a plat appeared, which encompassed approximately the same amount that had been rezoned. And that is what is shown on GIS for formerly Jasper Village. That plat, which was signed in 2019, was what created that, because the staff had no way of knowing that a deed.
Who owned what?
Easement.
Yeah, and I
existed.
think you're absolutely correct, but what happened when that plat went with the zoning, the plat didn't match the deed.
Exactly, we didn't know
They
about the
didn't own
deed.
that
Yeah, we
point
didn't know about the deed.
343. We owned it. The easement was recorded when we sold it. When I say we, Mom and Dad.
And the reason I was clarifying is because we were talking about zoning, but we spent most of the night still talking about this access point, and they're 2 different things, right?
Correct. Oh, sorry.
The zoning that we're doing now
We were
doesn't
made
really
aware
affect that
of the
one way or the
access
other.
easement, and so when the access to Moultrie was on the sketch plan, we acknowledged that there's an access easement.
Okay.
You know, this was arranged, this is already, and so now, I don't know if we're just redrawing lines to match the deed rather than transferring property. We're just fixing that plat. But no new plat has been submitted, but the tax assessor agreed that they interpret the deed the way, you know, to show that that line can be moved. And to completely clarify, we'll rezone that piece of earth just to be certain that it is B3.
So
what
the access easement, once it's rezoned and recombined and part of the Parker's parcel, the access easement's kind of a moot point because this.
Not if that drive's on a different piece of property. That's why I was asking, right? But if you've got it
Free
covered, I
drive?
just wanted to make sure that was all covered. So.
Moultrie.
That's all covered. Access up
Moultrie
Moultrie.
Drive is owned by whoever y'all are. That was Jasper Village.
Right.
The access easement on the .343 was part of the transaction when we sold it, and the construction of Moultrie Drive was part of the deal where it's actually constructed to handle the traffic coming in that commercial.
I'm just trying to clarify that the zoning had no effect on the access. Right. That's all I'm trying to clarify.
Any further discussion? Call for a motion.
I make a motion to approve with all staff recommendation.
A motion for approval, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Smith. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Thank you, gentlemen and ma'am.
Ma'am.
What else? Meeting adjourned.